A Giants podcast for Giants fans
by Giants fans.
It's Shaun Morash.
On the sideline, into the end zone. Touchdown, Giants!
From the offseason through the wins and the losses, it's time to take one Giant step.
Welcome inside One Giant Step. I'm Shaun Morash. He's Bryce Gelman. The Super Bowl is set. The Shrine Bowl, Senior Bowl, all those antics are going on. First of all, thanks to Bryce. Obviously, I could not appear last week on the podcast. The flu absolutely destroyed me and destroyed the house. But we survived. We're okay. 103-degree fever as an adult. I felt like I was back in third grade, but it was bad. It was knocked off my feet, and that's okay. We're back. There's a lot of Giants news going on. Bryce, how are you, buddy? Everything going all right?
I'm doing well, Shaun. I'm doing well. It's good to have you back. Let's get into it.
It is good to be back. So we're going to get into a little bit of the Saquon Eagles stuff because, people just cannot stop. We'll get into that in a little bit. All the ongoing stuff going on. All you have to do is follow a lot of the Giant content creators who are down in Mobile, Alabama for the Senior Bowl. Some Shrine Bowl stuff that's happened that I wanted to get into with Shedeur Sanders. But first, let's get into the Mike Kafka saga here, Bryce Gelman. I want to make a declarative statement. Mike Kafka will not be the coach of the New Orleans Saints. Okay. Yeah. It is so obvious if he was going to be the coach of the New Orleans Saints, he would be the coach of the New Orleans Saints today. It appears like Kellen Moore, the offensive coordinator of the Eagles, is going to be the head coach. And why do we say that? Well, he can't be hired yet because the Eagles are in the Super Bowl. So for anybody who has their hopes up about that, just block that out of your head and use some sensibility. If Kafka, who got that second look, was going to be getting the job, wouldn't he have the job right now? Wouldn't the Saints be taking advantage of the fact that Mike Kafka is coaching the Senior Bowl right now, and they could be getting that intel to them and not the New York Giants? So, Bryce, before we get any further on what's going on with Mike Kafka, do you agree he's not getting the Saints job?
It's going to be Kellen Moore, and it's unfortunate because we obviously wanted the comp picks there.
You know what, Bryce? Let me just pause you right there. This is something that I don't think we should feel uncomfortable talking about. Look, the nature of the Rooney Rule is if you develop a minority candidate, you get rewarded with third-round picks, depending on, what happens there. And the NFL has done that, and it can work, but I don't think I should feel dirty as a fan for rooting for Mike Kafka to get a job because that means my team gets third-round picks out of it. So
yeah, and your third-round pick, Shaun, those guys could turn into future cornerstone pieces of your franchise. I don't think that's crazy to say. It's not expected that a third-round pick is going to turn into I don't know who's out there who's been a third-round pick for the Giants anytime soon that's turned into anything good. But Drew Phillips, good point.
Mario Manningham.
I mean, yeah, we're going back 15 years now. I'm just
kidding. Hey, he was a hero.
It's a possibility. And to not have those picks kind of sucks. Kafka is. I don't know. I think he's a good coach. He doesn't call the plays. It's not like, it would be like a huge – we're going to talk about – I know. But it's not like the Giants would be losing out on someone that has really impacted them, again, with the play calling. It's not the case. So,
yeah, and look, I think I kind of have a theory that ties into the third-round picks and whatnot and developing these guys I'm going to get to in just a moment. But if I was the New York Giants, I'd be rooting for Kafka to get the job. I obviously would, and clearly they would like him to do so. So with that, Brian Daboll had an interesting quote that has come out about play calling, and I thought Connor Hughes of SMY did a really good job of detailing where we're at. The Mike Kafka situation, like we can throw whatever pom-poms we want at this from a Giant, like positive perspective. We look at the negative perspective. It is absolutely bizarre what has happened with Mike Kafka and the Giants. So anyway, Brian Daboll came out, I guess yesterday might have been the Shrine Bowl. I'm getting the two confused where these guys all are ponied up here. And said that, giving up play calling, he obviously isn't necessarily rooting for Mike Kafka to get the Saints job because he's heavily considering giving him back play calling, which before we, timeline this, I just found to be such a comical line for a couple of reasons. Here's the first one. There is a chance that is a very backhanded, underhanded way of Brian Daboll to encourage the New Orleans Saints that Mike Kafka's value is back on the rise with the New York Giants. And that if you don't hire him, he's back to calling plays for us.
Good point.
And I think that Mike Kafka, I think that Brian Daboll and Joe Schoen both as a tandem probably want the Saints to hire Mike Kafka because they want the draft capital. So, pumping up Mike Kafka's value in a way like, oof, boy, we really don't want to lose this guy. Like, that's the way I interpreted that, Bryce, before we get into the actual play calling part of it, which there's going to be a negative coming. How did you interpret that?
Not like that. Not like that. I just genuinely think that there's incompetence. There's dysfunction in this organization. The fact that that's even a question. The fact that Brian Daboll, through the last few games of the season in 2023, and then obviously all of last season, has been the play caller. So now we're just going to hand it back to Kafka. And I understand the idea and the point that you're trying to make. I just think that's so far-fetched when you consider the fact that Kellen Moore is the favorite. So what are you going to do? You're going to walk back that statement and be like, well, actually, I want to call the plays. I was just saying that, I would like for him, there's a double-edged sword in this. And
here's the negative.
That he could go back around on that is just not a good look.
Here's the negative. And before I tell you the negative, because I think it's important to reiterate, Connor Hughes really laid this out, so I'll just read exactly what he said about this. This was 17 hours ago at the time we're taping this on Wednesday morning. Let me recap this for my own sanity, Connor Hughes said. Mike Kafka was the Giants play caller in 2022, but not running his offense, the one he'd have implemented if given full control of the scheme. He was calling Daboll's offense from Buffalo. Again, I really don't have an issue with that. Brian Daboll was hired partially because of the offense he ran in Buffalo. So, Mike Kafka having to call the Daboll offense and not implement his own, I wonder how drastically different that would be. Okay, but nonetheless, yes, he was calling plays. Then in 2023, Daboll got mad, yanked the play calling from Kafka. Remember, it was a little shoddy early in 2023. He gave it to quarterbacks coach Shea Tierney, then back to Kafka. Then who knows, towards the end, Joe Shane, remember that story, ended up on the coaching headsets. Multiple complaints over game day operations. Yeah, Brian Daboll was losing his cool in 2023. Okay? And Daboll clearly was calling plays, and I think we go back to him calling plays in that Arizona game, and that gave him the confidence. Look, Brian Daboll saw an offense struggling, saw himself as an offensive mind, couldn't help himself. Probably not the best look, but other coaches like Sean McVay and Andy Reid call plays, so again, I didn't have that much of an issue with it. Okay, this keeps going on with Connor Hughes, which brings us to last year, where Daboll took play calling back for himself. He talked openly about it. Kafka was essentially stripped of any actual say in the offense. But this is where Connor Hughes throws in, despite the offensive-minded Daboll calling plays, the offense regressed in just about every measure. So now Daboll is giving back play calling to Kafka. What? In what way does this seem functional? Well, first of all, it's not functional. But again, let me just say this. I think Connor does a good job. Guys, we watched the games. The team stunk. Did anybody think the play calls or why the Giants offense wasn't moving the ball?
No.
Daniel Jones missed 1 million receivers early in the year, and then they basically had no quarterback play. There were guys, and we saw when Wan'Dale Robinson was stomping his feet in Carolina. He also managed a way to get 1,000-yard back in Tracy, 1,000-yard receiver in Neighbors, despite all that dysfunction. Brian Daboll was not a bad play caller last year. Here's the problem, and this is where dysfunction does exist. John Mara and the meddling. How many times do we have to come back to the John Mara? Does he meddle? Does he not meddle? Has everybody forgotten what John Mara said at his end-of-the-year scrum about bringing back Daboll and Shane? He was asked about Daboll and the play calling, and he flat out said, it's something we are going to talk about, whether it is in the best interest for Brian Daboll as the head coach of the team to be calling plays. John Mara said it. Go back 3 weeks. Bryce, does anybody not remember this? So this is what I'm saying. For Brian Daboll to say this now, while I think he is trying to inflate and hope Kafka gets the job, at the same time, this screams, I'm bringing you back. You're going to be the head coach of the team. I don't think you should be calling plays. It sounds like this is something Brian Daboll doesn't want to do, but he has to put on a good face and say Kafka should call the plays because his owner is forcing him to do so, which goes back again to inherent problems with the Giants, which is, does ownership meddle in personnel and GM and head coach decisions? Anytime somebody keeps bringing up, I don't know if they do that, we have the quotes. Yep. We know John Mara said it. 3 weeks later, Brian Daboll saying this. How is any reporter not bringing this up? How is any reporter not going back to the John Mara quotes? Why is everybody acting like this is some kind of dysfunction between Kafka and Daboll? Come on, this is clearly dysfunction from the top. Am I nuts? Am I losing my mind, Bryce?
It's definitely an interesting thought. I didn't think about it like that. It makes total sense, though.
Everybody forgot John Mara said this.
There's definitely the inherent pressure that he's put on Daboll. And the idea that he'd go back and say something like that after Mara. Yeah, I guess the timeline does match up here. Yeah. But again, you're right.
Connor Hughes is a good reporter, and I like Connor. He does a 15-part tweet, doesn't mention Mara saying that 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Instead, just tries to. And look, I know the reporters got a job to do. I know that the reporters have soured a lot on Daboll and everything. But guys, you might love the quotes you get from John Mara. You're going to forget about them 3 weeks later when bringing up the topic of Kafka and Daboll and the play calling. And what are we doing?
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe I could be wrong. Look, I'm not 100%. I don't bat 1,000. It seems a little too coincidental that this is a thing now, Bryce. It just does. But nonetheless, it's just more Giants dysfunction. In the end, look, if the Giants find a quarterback they like in this draft or in free agency, whoever's calling the plays, you got to score points. So I don't think Mike Kafka's a disaster calling plays. I don't think Brian Daboll's a disaster calling plays. I think, look, when you scheme and call a lot of plays and you have no quarterback, I don't care if Sean McVay's running the offense. They're not scoring points with Drew Lock and Tommy DeVito this year. That's not happening. And they're not scoring points if Daniel Jones can't hit receivers. So, look, that's where I'm at. Now on Brian Daboll. Here's where I'm I got to be honest with you. I'm a little upset with Brian Daboll, Bryce.
Oh, wow. Okay? Look at this.
Oh, wow. Look at this. Again, I will reiterate.
They think we're pro Daboll here. They think we're completely pro Daboll.
Pro Daboll. I want to reiterate this. Look at what's gone around in the coaching carousel this year and all the head coaches that were hired. I'm not a big Ben Johnson guy. Maybe we're fine. He wouldn't have come here.
Yeah.
I don't think that this was the right year to be looking for a head coach. So in the end, I don't think, would you have been that much more confident in, and I think Aaron Glenn will be fine. Aaron Glenn taking over this job or, Pete Carroll at his age. I don't know. I'm just saying that to say I'm setting the tone that I'm still in the camp of bring Daboll back. However, one of the things I killed Dave Gettleman the most for in every year leading up to the draft was telegraphing exactly what the Giants were going to do. You knew 2 weeks out, 3 weeks out. And if we knew as fans, the NFL world knew exactly what Dave Gettleman was going to do with the draft. Okay? He knew.
I know where you're going here.
Look at what happened the year the Giants ended up with Kadarius Toney because they were caught with their pants down because the whole world knew they wanted Devontae Smith and the Eagles leapfrogged them and got Devontae Smith. He wouldn't even listen to trade offers at number 2 overall with Saquon Barkley there when the team obviously was going to need a quarterback or something like that or even, offensive line help. And instead, he just took the Ferrari that was Saquon Barkley. The Giants are still paying the price for that decision. And then a year later, full-blown love with Daniel Jones. We all knew it at the Senior Bowl. And we tried to deny it, tried to hope that wasn't the case. And they took Daniel. He was so obvious at telegraphing who he wanted. The one thing I will give Joe Shane and I guess Brian Daboll, the head coach, credit for throughout these drafts, whether you have disagreed with them or agreed with them, is we have not known exactly where the Giants were going in the draft. I take you back. It sounds crazy now to think about. The Giant world was stunned when the Giants took Kayvon Thibodeau at 5th overall. And by the way, not because anybody thought it was a reach, because everybody thought Kayvon was going to be some great pass rusher. And look, he's obviously been a very polarizing, debatable player. But that was like, wow, this doesn't seem like a Giants guy. And they went and did it, and nobody saw it coming. All right? People thought offensive line at 5. The next year with Deonte Banks, there was some speculation, but man, would they go Joey Porter? They're going to take one of these receivers. Do they really like Zay Flowers? Do they like JSN? And they ended up with Deonte Banks. And then we go to what the Giants did last year. We didn't know which one of these receivers they were going to take. And we didn't know up until draft day, are they really going to do this with J.J. McCarthy? You remember all the rumors about that, Bryce?
Yeah.
We were left guessing, and ultimately they took Malik Neighbors. I said because that's a good thing. You don't want the world knowing exactly what you're going to do because you can get taken advantage of or leapfrogged on draft day. Now, we take you through the timeline that's been the last few months, weeks, visiting Colorado what feels like 70 times, getting to the point where Shedeur Sanders put on Giants cleats. That's how much of a personal relationship he had. And every camera that has been on Brian Daboll at the Shrine Bowl basically makes it feel like Brian Daboll is stuck to the anus of Shedeur Sanders. The dapping up everywhere. And I'm sure we're not getting 24/7. It's not Ed TV where every move that Brian Daboll's made, but every time you look up, I haven't seen a single hand slap with Cam Ward. I haven't seen a single hand slap with any other big draft. It is like him and Shedeur Sanders basically want to make out with each other. And Bryce, this is where you get yourself into trouble. The Giants don't control their own destiny at 3rd overall unless they find a way to trade up here. If the Cleveland Browns are just simply paying attention, it doesn't matter what Dion calls the shots with. They could take Shedeur Sanders second overall. The Titans could take Shedeur Sanders first overall and sit there once they've taken him, a la the Chargers with Eli Manning, and ask for the world. Oh, yeah, you love this guy so much? We're going to take him. There's nothing you could do about it. You really want him? Now you're going to pony up everything in a trade. I don't know what this is, but I would just – it's almost too late. The public fawning over Shedeur Sanders, and I think Shedeur Sanders could be a fine call. I would be excited if the Giants took him. I think this is out of control. I think it's absurd. And dare I say, I think it has been absolutely the biggest misstep and mistake in Brian Daboll's tenure with the Giants is the public love affair he's had with Shedeur Sanders. I hate telegraphing what you're going to do as an organization. And this is beyond trying to think this is a smokescreen. They love the guy, and they haven't hit it, and it's a problem.
Oh, listen, let me just say this. And I think it's a good point you make there. But I think, let me just say this. Everyone and their mothers knows the Giants are going to take a quarterback or want a quarterback or need a quarterback. Everyone knows this. This is a very common a piece of knowledge.
Cam Ward and Jackson Dart exist, bro.
Maybe let me play devil's advocate here. What if this is what they want you to think? What if they deep down don't trust Shedeur Sanders because of what comes along with it? Because of the pressures of having Deion Sanders attached to your newest draft pick and your potential quarterback of the future. Maybe that's what they want you to think. Maybe that's what they want the Browns and the Titans to think. The Giants are so high on Shedeur Sanders. They take him and say, hey, you know what? Screw it. And they're like, you know what? We want Cam Ward. We're going to take Cam Ward. We're not going to trade up. You want Travis? Take Travis Hunter. Well, we're fine with whoever we end up with at 3. And I think that's the case, Shaun. And I want to bring you back to last year. Everyone knew that the Commanders were, I guess this is a different situation because everyone knew that the top 3, I guess, from like March on. But from, I'd say February on, you knew that the Commanders were going to take Jaden Daniels. And nothing came from that. There wasn't, some negative connotation attached to it.
That's different, though, dude.
I understand it's somewhat of a different.
It's different because they were second overall, and we already knew the Bears were taking Caleb Williams. It's completely different. You have no idea who the Titans and Browns are taking at this point.
At 3 with the Patriots, with Drake May. So it's like, yes, there's a lot more. There's different ways that this can go as compared to last year. We have no idea how the first 3 is going to shake out. I understand that. But maybe this is a ploy. Maybe this is something deep down the Giants are trying to do to throw the top 2 teams off. Maybe it's to throw them off their scent, Shaun. I don't know. I'm playing devil's advocate. We're completely grasping at straws here. I know you're frustrated and upset.
I'll clap it up for you, man.
I know you're very upset with the Giants being so forward about their love for Shedeur Sanders. But you're telling me right now that there aren't any reservations among Mara, Shane, and Daboll.
Look, I'm sure there's got to be some.
Deion Sanders attached to all of this, and maybe, just maybe deep down, they are trying to throw them off their scent. I don't think that's a crazy take whatsoever, just like I don't think what you just said is a crazy take.
When there are smoke screens that exist in the NFL, it is usually involving the leaking of reports that goes out there, right? People start whispering, people start talking, oh, we're hearing the Giants love this so-and-so. We're hearing the Browns love so-and-so. It is oftentimes not publicly on camera, and the glimmer and everything. If this is a smokescreen, and your devil's advocate ploy is right, first of all, I would applaud the New York Giants. If this is what they're trying to do, I would just say Brian Daboll should not be a head football coach in the NFL. He should be in Hollywood acting in movies because this would be the most unbelievable acting job of all time.
I really don't think it's that crazy. I could do it. You make me the head coach of the Giants. I can go out there and make it seem like I have.
But Bryce, this would be acting that goes back 3 months. For what reason? They didn't even know when they started this love affair. They were picking first overall.
Shaun, this takes the place of all these leaked reports. It's the videos of him out there. I'm just saying, if it just started
this week, this was the first glimmer we got of any of it, fine. All right. Last but not least, thank you for the lower third. We're moving on. Brutal. I don't know where else to do this but here on One Giant Step.
I have no idea. I have no idea where you're going with this, by the way. Zero idea. I'm going to throw up the lower thirds of this one, so I don't forget. So there you go.
I just wanted, I want to have a clear thought because here's the first beginning statement. I love and adore Giants fans. I am one. Bryce is one. We were all born into it. We love the glory days. We love, a good Sunday in the Meadowlands parking lot, grilling up some sausages, having fun, high-fiving, House of Pain jump around comes on. We understand that the dark days have really hit Giants football. And when the days were great, the days were great. And whether it's the nonstop losing, except for 2 years out of the last 10, whether it's just the boom of social media that exists where everybody just has their opinion out there and everybody is just so toxic and everybody needs to fight, the Giant fan base has become so fractured, right? You're a Daniel Jones stan. You're a Saquon stan. You Mara this, Mara that. Everybody is on like one side of an internal war at any given time. Now it's Kayvon Thibodeau. Who hates him? Should he get an op? Everything. I hate this. I hate that the fan base has gotten like this, but I guess losing breeds this. But what I really can't stand for, look, if everybody has their opinion, not everybody's going to be right 100%. What I really can't stand for is a lack of balls on Giant fans and what I have seen and what's materialized. Look, have I gone a little too far at times on social media for the anti-Saquon Eagle stuff? Sure.
Yes.
But where I grew up and what I handled was we hate the city of Philadelphia, even if like at the core there's some good people there clearly, and like there's not all New Yorkers are great. Like I get it, right? But they're your rival, right? Yankees, Red Sox, that's a rival. Yankees, Giants, Eagles is a rivalry. I'm reading stuff online that there are Giant fans who love Saquon Barkley so much that they would dare root for the Eagles in the Super Bowl. Oh yeah, big blue view, I think, put out like, oh yeah, no, and there's fans going, those, you're not real Giants fans. You have fallen in love with the fantasy football era of football where you start loving players too much and not the team. I need to reiterate numerous things about Saquon Barkley. Even if you liked him and he was your favorite player in a down era, the Giants offered him a deal the year before he left in free agency that was similar enough to this one. Okay, and it would have got the Giants clearly a year younger out earlier. Saquon Barkley declined that deal. You want to argue about, was $1 million less, whatever. He was offered a deal that would have paid him handsomely. He declined it. Ryan Dunleavy could spin this any way he wants, okay? He did not want to be here ultimately. And you know what? I can't even blame him. Look at other running backs that have left their bad situations that they shouldn't have been in. Christian McCaffrey in Carolina. Hell, Derrick Henry this year, what he did with Baltimore. Your running backs, when you are a premium back, you're better suited trying to go somewhere and be a finishing piece. So I don't fault Saquon for that, okay? But Saquon Barkley is not a Giant. He is on the enemy. He is on the Philadelphia Eagles. And what has happened publicly in this run is you Giants fans and this organization have basically been used as the punchline of every joke. As if somehow this was the worst decision a franchise has ever made. When I would argue the exact opposite. If Saquon was having this success and the Houston Texans were on the way to the Super Bowl, it still would not be a mistake by the New York Giants. Their mistake was not trading him when they should have, and he helped them to wins where they could have Jaden Daniels. Guys, stop with the lack of balls. Hate the Philadelphia Eagles. You should be rooting against them at every turn. The Saquon stuff, you shouldn't be quote-unquote happy for him. It is what it is, man. Sack the hell up. You root for the Chiefs in the Super Bowl, and if the Eagles lose, you absolutely revel that this didn't get a storybook ending. You like being a punchline? You like being a joke? You like being spineless? Do you think if the roles were reversed and the Philadelphia Eagles best player left and the New York Giants are going to the Super Bowl, that Philadelphia Eagle fans would basically take this on? They go, you know what? Yeah, I'm happy for the Giants. I'd root for the Giants. No, they wouldn't. They'd be slashing our tires at the next tailgate next year. And I'm not telling Giant fans to do that.
Yeah.
But we have just become sackless and ballless as a fan base. Yeah. Am I out there arguing on Twitter with Eagle fans nonstop who want to torment me about Saquon Barkley? Yes. Is it fun all the time? No. But you know why I'm doing it? Because while I might be an egg-headed loser, I have balls. And quite frankly, Bryce, I don't care. You want to bleep this out? Here's a little curse for you. Fuck the Eagles. All right? Fuck them. We hate them. They have beaten us way too many times. They could have Saquon. He could go in the Eagles Ring of Honor. Fuck them. You don't root for the Eagles on Super Bowl Sunday. You're not happy Saquon Barkley's there. And stop saying that the Giants made some kind of massive mistake. The Giants have sucked for 10 years. Saquon Barkley was a big part of sucking. And yes, we had plenty of glamorous long runs in the Saquon Barkley tenure that resulted in touchdowns. We all high-fived, and it's part of the reason many of us love Saquon. Go back and watch some of the highlights. Go back and watch that loss to Philadelphia in the playoffs where Saquon Barkley's getting caught from behind, something he's not doing on the Eagles. He clearly has himself in better shape now. Saquon Barkley had 3,000-yard seasons in 6 years with the Giants. And before you quickly blame the O-line, and yes, the O-line's a big reason for the success he's having in Philly. High ankle sprain, ACL tear, another low ankle sprain. I'm going to sit out this extra week here. This, that, the other. Saquon Barkley was an injury-prone back for the New York Giants that gave us 3,000 yards in 6 years. You know where I come from when you take somebody like that does that over 6 years? I call that a bust of a draft pick.
Yep.
Period. So, yes, it's easy to remember the good times with Saquon. There was a lot of bad times. How many times did we scream and yell when a ball hit Saquon Barkley in the hands, it popped up, it was picked off, and that interception counted on Daniel Jones's record? Happened quite a few times. Don't believe me? Go back this summer. Go watch a lot of these games. Not all the times where Saquon Barkley was great. And the Giants' season this year, if they had kept Saquon Barkley, would have resulted likely in 3, 4, 5 wins. Hell, maybe they would have won a game or two more. But then maybe they don't get Shedeur Sanders and he turns out to be the quarterback of the future, right? Guys, this is what a rebuild's supposed to look like. And 2022, the year with Saquon and Jones, set back a rebuild. The right thing for this team to do is to move on from Saquon. And finally, it feels great going into an offseason where Saquon and Daniel Jones are on top of mind. And that's what I'm excited about for March and April. But grow some balls and get over the fact that Saquon's gone. If he wanted to be here, he could have been here a year earlier when he was offered the deal. He didn't. He chose the enemy. Fine. He's doing great with the enemy. Fine. But when you sit down on Super Bowl Sunday, you don't put a smile on for Saquon Barkley with his one-eyed, eye black. He plays for the enemy. Fuck him. Period. That's Giants football. And the moment we get back to having a little blue-collar balls, maybe the team will too. Let's do our part. Bryce, you can follow you at Bryce Gelman. I'm not.
You're not going to let me. You're not. Are you kidding me?
All right, fine.
Seriously?
Go ahead. I felt good.
You have no idea
Go ahead.
how frustrated. No. You have no idea how frustrated and angry I am that there are fans out there who are considering rooting for the Philadelphia Eagles in the Super Bowl. And trust me, I am so frustrated that I have to root for a team to three-peat in a league. The fact that that's the case, it really is like. It's disastrous for me in my own mind. The fact that I do that. But you got to do it. You got to do it. It is what it is. No, you're right.
You got to do it. We should be rooting for Steve Spagnuolo to get another ring and be the best defensive coordinator of all time. We owe a lot to him.
That's the one thing. That's the one
thing.
That
goes for Brandon Jacobs and Amani Toomer, too. Oh, I'm rooting for the Eagles for Saquon. If you forget what Spags did for your careers?
It's unfathomable that there are fans out there who are willing to root for the Eagles because of Saquon Barkley. Because of Saquon Barkley. And I listen, I'm guilty of one thing. A couple of my friends are guilty of this as well. In 2018, in that Super Bowl, I rooted for the Eagles. Because at the time, listen, as a younger Giants fan, I didn't know how scum. And this is me and like multiple of my friends. We didn't understand how scum the city of Philadelphia was. Doug Peterson, Nick Foles, two likable guys.
It's the Eagles, dude. It's Yankees, Red Sox.
I understand that now. Over the last 5-6 years, I understand that now. At the time, Shaun, was it as blatant, as big of a rivalry in terms of how bad the Eagles were beating the Giants? Like, I hate them now because they beat us so much. They're a better organization, and their fans are the scum of the earth. How could you possibly sit here and root for those fans to be happy? How can you root for those fans to go out on Broad Street and celebrate and knock down poles and act like idiots and shoot guns up in the air? They are scum. They are terrible fans in terms of how they treat other people. It's them against the world. Congratulations. It is them against the world. There are multiple. I mean, listen, I see people all over my timeline. There are people who I never thought in a million years would root for the Chiefs, non-Giants fans, that are rooting for the Chiefs because they hate the Eagles and their fans that much. And the fact that there's a single Giants fan who is willing to root for the Eagles because of Saquon Barkley is pathetic, Shaun. I'm in lockstep with you on this. I can't believe it. It's frustrating. And honestly, I can't take any more Eagle success.
Can't wait.
Like, congratulations to them, but I can't do it. I can't do it. This season is stuck.
And newsflash, brace yourself. There's a good chance, right? Because the world hasn't worked out in the Giants' favor that the Eagles do win. And we're going to have to live in that world if it does happen. But if they don't, it should be a glorious night on Sunday night, not a night we're like, oh, shucks, I feel bad for Saquon. So that's that. All right. That's going to do it for One Giant Step. We'll be back next week with an episode. We'll figure out something fun for us to be a part of. Remember, you're going to download, subscribe to One Giant Step free on the Audacy app, everywhere podcasts are available, so you get the update and the alert every time a new pod drops. At Bryce Gelman on Twitter, where you can find Bryce. At Shaun Morash on Twitter, you can find me. Thanks, everybody, for taking one giant step with us.